Summer's here. Miserably hot. Miserably hot. Today we're cutting pretty big poplar. When I say pretty big, on this biggest end here, 30 inches. My tape measure again failed by 28 and a half. That ain't too shabby. Length overall. Give you a reading on this. Length overall, we're looking at 113 inches. Not too shabby as well. I go through tape measures quite often. Yeah, irritating because that was actually a really good tape measure. I was upset about that one. I just had to trim off the end of this log. The end of the log had a cavernous, rotten spot, if you will, at the bottom. So I cut pretty close, and you can see there are some active bugs and everything working in there. It looks like some fire ants. And the fire ants are probably eating out the grubs and stuff like that that are in there. The location of this tree, I don't know if it was a yard tree or not, but it did sit on the ground for almost a year and a half or so, and a year and a half on the ground down here in Mississippi is pretty rough. Now, poplar does tend to be pretty bug resistant. The heart of poplar, most bugs won't get into it. I mean, they'll eat the sapwood off, but the heart of poplar is actually one of the things that it's pretty much stays bug free. Now, inside here, you can never really tell if you're going to have a rainbow poplar log unless you do an exploratory cut. Now, you can cut off the base. Now, on here, we know we're going to have some spalt on the outside and the sapwood here, and then in this heartwood section, we're going to have the typical green. Now, I do see some black sections here, some purple sections, and this black section will probably yield a blue-ish color on the inside, but only time will tell as we open up this log. Now, the way I place this log on here, if you're cutting a log with a large bell, you want to make sure that the bell does not end up on one of your bunks. You want the bell to be between one of your bunks, because if it ends up on your bunks, then that means that side's going to be super elevated compared to the rest of the log, because again, that's where it bells out. So I strategically placed this thing between my bunks here. Now, I do have toe boards on my mill, so I will, on this first cut, I will bring the front up a little bit. Probably not to make it level, because by doing so, if you bring it all the way up on the front side there, you're going to make your cut on the opposing side 180 degrees out from there. It's going to be a really, really deep cut to take that bell section out. So, actually, no, I take it back. It'll actually level out pretty well. So I might bring it up a little bit further back, a little bit further up than I was going to, because essentially by bringing the toe board up, your bottom board, will be kind of flat, but you may do a very large cut on your first cut, which is fine. Again, practice, it's worked really well for me. Remove the nastiest side of the log first, and it just so happened at this section right here, you can also see it's punky. This is probably the side of the log that was on the ground. I mean, all in all, it looks kind of rough and everything, but this side appears to have more punky wood and more of the bugs on it. So by towing that out and everything, I'll do a pretty deep cut on this side, and we will maximize as much as we can out of this. Now, what the customer is looking for, we've already cut up a whole lot for his house in the past. He has a really neat house where the entire inside is lined with poplar, and it looks amazingly good. It's all this poplar from down here in Mississippi. So it starts with a greenish color, and then it darkens to a kind of a brownish color, but you have that deep contrast between the sapwood and the heartwood. It looks really good. But what he's looking for is 1x8s. Now this, I believe he said, is going to go in his deer cleaning shed, but he just kind of wanted to match because he likes the way the house looks like on the inside. I've already cut up 3, 4 logs worth, I think. So we've already got quite a few 1x8s, but 1x8s is what is on the docket. And what would be ideal is if I can get a 16 by something. Actually 16 and a 16th would be nice, because then I'll cut the entirety of that 16 in half, and for every cut that I do, I'll be getting 2 boards. So yeah, again, try to maximize the cut. He also did say he wanted some 2x4s, and I do have some offcuts already from earlier when I was cutting those outside edges off and everything. And again, I might be able to get some stock out of here getting onto a scale where I get some 2-inch dimension. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and start cutting this thing. I'm going to go ahead and throw on a time lapse just to do the initial cuts and everything, and then we will do some real-time cutting. The blade on there is only cut up one log, so it should be pretty good. So here we go. All right, so scratch that. We're going to go ahead and do this real time. I've moved the camera a little bit closer so you can see everything. I had to remove a lot of dirt off the other end of the log. I've leveled it out as best I can. Now, the bell is pretty extreme on this side. And I was just talking about earlier, by leveling it out, it'll kind of level the bottom side. However, this tree does have kind of a bend to it. So I used a little bit of the toe board up forward. I may have to take quite a large cut off the top and the bottom side, but the goal is to get 16 inches. So we'll see what it does. So it cut very well, and I don't know if you can hear it, but somewhere down the length of that log I did hit a rock. Because when it hit the rock, it then kicked it up and hit somewhere else in the sawmill. But the cut quality looks good, and I do have a little bit of bug damage, not much. That was good. I'm actually pretty impressed even after hitting a rock. That the cut quality is pretty good. But we're going to flip it over, and we'll go ahead and get our 16-inch cut. So I've got a good surface on the other side, so we'll turn it over and cut 16 inches. Changed my mind. It was actually moving quite well, and it lined up pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and trim off this top side. Plus, it'll limit the amount of wood I'm having to cut through, and I can see what my cut quality is going to be like. So I did use the toe board and towed out and everything, leveled out the log pretty well. But I need to get off some more of this junk side here, And by doing this, maybe I'll reduce the risk of hitting some other junk in it.
took off just a lot of the nasty, which is good. But there's some bug damage in here.
It's these critters right here. So his head got cut off in that last cut, but we got these critters inside the wood. Yeah, no bueno.
Pretty heavy slabs too. just a little bit over 16, and the 16 right here. This next side right here, because I know I've got to cut 1/8, I'm going to put this on a 1-inch scale. So I'll bring it down to a 1-inch scale wherever it looks like it's going to get a clean cut. So not only was the log belled out at one side, it also is like in the shape of a banana. So a lot of mass there, a little here, got a really nasty soft spot right here in the center of the log. So I brought it down as much as I could to get it clean. I'm gonna pop this off and take a look what the log looks like. It's really light on this side, it's heavy on that side. It's kind of funny. Turn it over real quick and get back onto our one side where I'm going to cut it in half, and then we'll look at the log. Now you should be able to hear me talk everything. The log itself looks pretty good. It's pretty well squared up. It's got a little bit of spalt to it and everything. Subtle hints of like pink there. And you got some spalt lines. You got some actual lines of the grain there. It looks pretty good. On the other side, we did hit
one of those darker regions. Hopefully my camera doesn't screw up, because I had it on the auto steady, it was going like crazy the other day. There we go. So nice little dark streak right there. I think that looks pretty good. But overall, pretty well squared up. A little bit of live edge right there, but not so much. So again, now what we're gonna do, we're gonna cut the log in half. We're gonna cut the log in half. That'll get us our 8 inches that we need on either side, and then we'll turn both slabs up and cut them. So for every single cut we do, we'll get 1 board. We should get quite a few boards out of this. This is 16 and 1/8 inches by 15 and 3/4. So yeah, not too shabby. That's a nice cant. That's a really nice cant right there, and we're gonna see what these boards look like on the inside. I think we're gonna be pretty impressed. So stay tuned. I'm gonna throw in a time lapse and everything. But I hope this was informational. I mean, it was nothing crazy, but just showing kind of how I do things. And as you can see, I make mistakes. Like I was going to do one thing, I did something else. You know, I changed my mind, and I just kind of feel what the log looks like. If this log was a little more uniform tapered and not a banana shape with a huge bell on the bottom, I might have done things differently. But once I started turning that log on its side, I'm like, I'm getting a pretty nice edge here. Let's go ahead and do this. So yeah, always changing and adapting to the logs that we have on the mill. All right, stay tuned. But folks, I cannot stress how awesome the set works are on this computer. That is 30 1/8. That's impressive. And you can see, I mean, just look at that cut quality. You can see down the length of that log there, all those cuts, every single one of them is spot on 1 inch. And it's a clean cut. So I'm very happy the way that turned out. So how's that for a stack of wood? It wasn't the quickest, I'll say, because when you're cutting essentially 16 inches wide, it's kind of a slow cut. That's 191-ish board foot just out of that one cant right there, cut up into 1/8. But again, that's 30. I knocked out 30 1/8. Total time, if you talk about the whole log, maybe like 40-ish minutes or so. So not too shabby. Probably actually a little bit less than that, because I'm also talking. If I was not filming, it might have been a little bit quicker. But yeah, I'm happy with this. I know the customers will be happy with this. All right, folks, I do apologize. I don't know what happened. I actually did not record what I said I was going to record before the customer came and picked up all the wood. This is the remnant pile. Now there's a few little pieces of water oak scrap over here, but for the most part, these are all the offcuts. Now again, these poplar logs had been on the ground for quite some time. You can see there was quite a bit of punkiness and stuff to the outside of these. They were kind of rough, but the insides yielded some very nice lumber, and the customer was very happy. Now, what I calculated was the total board footage was 485 board foot is what I got out of that. Now that was all cut into 1/8. Now, if I had a little more latitude on what I could have cut that, if I cut those into max width or even a smaller dimension, say 1x6s, I think I could have got a little more board footage. But because we had to get 1x8s, that was what the customer needed. It kind of did take the board footage number down a little bit because I couldn't quite squeeze out as much, and I did some deeper cuts. Long story short, 485 board foot, and I charged on that run, it was 50 cents a board foot. Now usually on hardwoods I do 55 cents a board foot, just because right now I'm just so swamped and I don't really want to take on any orders. But I told people 40 cents a board foot for softwoods, and hardwoods, which is, you know, pretty much anything other than cedar, cypress, pine, and stuff like that. So all your hardwoods and everything, I usually do at 55 cents a board foot. Now I cut it down to 50 cents a board foot because I don't mind cutting poplar. Poplar actually cuts almost like a softwood. There's a few little little differences on it, but for the most part, so 50 cents a board foot, that came out to be like $242. I told him $240, and he was happy, I was happy, and I knocked it out pretty quick. I want to say I knocked everything out in about, it was a couple hours, because I had to move some of the smaller logs and I had that big log there, and cutting one by material just takes a while. So I don't care what the numbers say. If someone says they're getting 1,000 board foot an hour, they're definitely not cutting one by material on a portable band sawmill. Maybe on a circle sawmill or something like that. It is doable, but it's a lot of freaking work. I don't know if it is doable. I don't know. Comment below if you think it is doable or not. But I usually cut, typically by myself, 400 to 500 board foot an hour. However, that's if I'm cutting, say, large true dimension 2x6s, 2x8s, maybe even posts and stuff like that. Not one by stock. One by stock just takes time. It's a lot of cuts. You're moving the saw head around a whole lot and everything, and it's repetitive. So long story short, again, that job right there that went off to the customer was quite a bit. It was 485 board foot, and that turned out to be, like I said, $240 what I got. As you can see, I've got a lot of just junk out here. I had someone drop off 18 pine logs the other day, and they are not 18 big pine logs. They're all quite small, and I've got to come up with 2x4s and stuff like that. And I also was moving some of these pine logs around here. But our time here in Mississippi is coming closer to an end. We have under a year left here. So that means all of this, my log yard, if you will, I have to get all of this cleaned up. I've got a lot of logs out here, and I moved a whole lot of logs around the other day. Yes, I do have some logs on the ground. Shame on me. But these are logs. They're really small. I can't really get anything at them other than 6x6 posts, and we have a treatment plant up the road. I'll be taking these to once I get them cut to 6x6 posts, or maybe even 5x5, whatever I can get out of them. So I'm going through this weekend. I was actually pulling logs all over the place, throwing around, trying to find stuff. I'm not supposed to have logs on that side. I have a few logs on that side, and I still have this giant, I'm talking giant pecan log, which I got to cut. That will be an upcoming video. I'll give you a little sneak peek right now, but just to give you an idea, the small end on this is like 54 inches. The big end, if you count the crotch and everything, we're talking 80 inches. Now my mill will not cut 80 inches, so we're going to have to cut this back. And I'll show you where we're going to cut it off. So that's a big log. Essentially, where this piece is right here, I'm going to have to cut about right there so I can get the saw head to come down this way, the actual engine portion. But yes, this log right here, to give you an idea, is over 13,000 pounds. That's how heavy this pecan tree is here. And the guy we got this tree from, he said his great-grandfather planted or something like that. So I mean, this thing has got some age on it. Yeah, I'm cutting this for a buddy, so there's not really any money involved. But I think it will be a great episode for the channel. So please like and subscribe. The channel is growing, and I think it's awesome. I think by this weekend I'll be at 2,500 subscribers, and I think that's fantastic. I'm not sure which video I'm going to post, but we have two, I'm talking huge surprises coming up. Like, never would I thought some of this stuff would happen. That just happened, kind of on the fly, and we had to make some quick decisions, but I think we made the right decisions. And right now we're going through all the paperwork drill, if you will. So anyways, long story short, you'll see, hopefully maybe in a month or two I'll have something to post on it. But we have some big changes occurring, and it's really exciting. So without further ado, Again, please like, subscribe. We'll see you around. Thanks.